this isn't just another full moon. The Pisces lunar eclipse on September 7th could be the most emotional turning point of 2025. Here's why every zodiac sign will feel it.
Some of you have been lied on and had your name dragged through the mud by gossipers and liars and people who wanted to make a mockery of your actual real life. Well, your moment of truth is here.
Something major is about to shift under this Pisces eclipse. And if you're not prepared, it could shake your emotional world. Let's break it down.
This full moon in Pisces lunar eclipse is exposing all the lies, all the manipulations, false realities that people have been creating to stroke their ego. Welcome to the Aquarius Podcast. Welcome to the Aquarius Podcast. Thank you for joining me for another episode where we get to discuss a full moon or new moon transit. So as you've already heard, we're having a full moon in the sign of Pisces. So let's go over the placements for that day. We're having Virgo at the sun at the 15th degree. I want to note that that is the degree of Gemini. Gemini is a communicator. Remember, Gemini and Sagittarius are sisters in astrology. These two are prophets, okay? They bring you new information that you did not know before. This is why the most popular rappers in the world are all Geminis, because Gemini is a master at communication. It's a wordsmith when it's healthy, of course. As a matter of fact, I'm reflecting here on like this Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef, Drake being a Scorpio and Kendrick Lamar being a Gemini. There's so many things that Kendrick Lamar leaked in his music during that beef that we're now finding out has so many different meanings. And that is the power of Gemini. When they communicate with you, there's so many layers to what they're saying. Guess who else is exactly that way? Sagittarius. We'll get to that a little later. So 15th degree, sun sign Virgo. We have the moon in Pisces at the same degree, again Gemini, so information being communicated. We have Virgo at the Mercury. Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, just like Gemini. So having Mercury in Virgo is the highest level of communication we can ever have, because Virgo is actually exalted in Mercury, meaning out of the entire zodiac, Virgo is the best communicator, even better than Gemini. So all this Gemini energy and our Virgo energy stacking up is starting to look like pretty loaded with truths, okay? Moving on to Venus. Venus is still in Leo, again at the 15th degree, still with that Gemini theme. Moving on to Mars in Libra. Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces. Well, the moon is in Pisces. Saturn, the planet of karma, is also in Pisces. This association, which we call conjunction in the world of astrology, means that this communication that's coming has something to do with stirring up our emotions and serving our karma. What makes this more potent is that it's happening at the 29th degree, which is a degree of Leo, and we have the Venus at Leo. So those of you who've had your heart played with other people who were trying to mess with the way you feel about yourself or the way you love yourself, you're going to be getting redemption during this time, because the truth that will be exposed about the liars and the manipulators is going to be exposed publicly, and these people will have no choice but to face the music. Interestingly, we also have Uranus, a Gemini, which again, still very mercurial energy here. As you know, Uranus is a planet of progress and it's rebellious. Usually when Uranus is delivering information, it comes in a very, exciting, Aquarius is lightning, so it's always delivered in with a zinger. It's very fast paced and it's electric. That's the important thing. Neptune is at Aries. Pluto is in Aquarius. We have our collective North Node in Pisces. So at this point, we have our Pisces at the moon, Pisces at Saturn, and Pisces at North Node, meaning this is our collective destiny. Everything that happens under this full moon is destiny. It is karmic. It's unavoidable. It's here to make us better. So we embrace it. Lilith, also in Scorpio. Chiron is in Aries. So we have Neptune and Chiron in Aries. Our fortune is also in Gemini. Again, more mercurial energy. Our vertex is in Cancer. So let's go over the planets that are retrograde. Saturn is retrograde. Uranus is retrograde. Neptune is retrograde. Pluto retrograde. North Node retrograde. And Chiron retrograde. So these aren't planets, the last two are points. But it is significant because a retrograde always points to reflection. It means pulling back and thinking through what's actually happening right now. This transit is going to be exposing truths that we need to know. At the rising, we have Sagittarius at 0 degrees. If you know Sagittarius and you know Gemini, then you know how this information is going to be coming at you, and it's going to stir up your soul, because this is what Sagittarius is here to do. This is why, by the way, Sagittarius is associated with Chiron in astrology, the wounded healer, because Sagittarius cannot exist without depth. So this full moon transit is going to stir up some emotional depth that may be lacking in us, or that we need to cultivate so that we can get a greater level of comfort with all soul's purpose and the responsibilities that we have in our lives that keep us grounded in truth. First, let's go into the spiritual lessons of Pisces. Pisces is here to teach all of us, wherever you have that zodiac sign in your natal chart, it's here to teach you to surrender. Pisces teaches us that control is an illusion. This is something Virgo is still learning. True wisdom is not in holding on, but in letting go. Virgo wants to control. Pisces knows they need to flow with life. The spiritual impact of this transit is that we have to learn to trust what's unseen. We have to learn to trust our gut and our intuition. And if we're finding ourselves right now in hot water with information that we thought was credible, but we're now finding out that we're being lied to, if you were to replay the tapes of when you were being lied to, I'm sure there was an intuition, something in your body that was telling you, something doesn't feel right. So Pisces generally works well in the something doesn't feel right era of life because they work in the darkness. Pisces is the oldest zodiac sign, so they don't resist what is. But Virgo likes to resist what is because Virgo is afraid of losing control. So the lesson here is, trust your intuition, listen to your feelings, and surrender to what is. Number 2, have some compassion, not just for yourself, but for others. Because you see, all of us are one. There is unity in the human race. I know it's hard to see it and it's hard to feel it at times since there's so many forces that are working around, subjugating other people and trying to make other people feel small and trying to make other people feel undeserving of love and not worthy. It can become very easy to lose sight of the fact that all of us are truly one. Yes, we have some issues that we need to work through as a people, but all of us human beings are connected. And that's literally what love is. Love is not sentimental, but love is a cosmic law. God is love, and all of us are love. Pisces energy separates or dissolves, if you will, the distinction between me and you. Pisces energy is about radical empathy, radical compassion. It's very easy for Pisces people, Sun, Moon, and Rising, to absorb the emotions, the energies, and the feelings of others. They are the most compassionate people on earth for this reason. Number 3, illusions and truth. Pisces lives in the realms of fantasy, dreams, and deception. This can be enlightenment, or sometimes it can be a tool to escape reality. The spiritual impact of Pisces energy is to really discern what is a spiritual truth and what is a lie. That's what they're here to do. Pisces is here to face their shadow because their shadow side is self-deception. They're very good liars because they're very good at lying to themselves. Nobody can lie to themselves better than a Pisces. So the gift that Pisces is here to cultivate is spiritual discernment by keeping their eye on their gut, on their intuition, because they have a direct line to divinity. So they're always able to see what's real and what's fake. When a Pisces allows themselves to be consumed with the fake as the real, it's because they've lost their connection to source. Pisces is also a zodiac sign who is gifted with spiritual lessons around sacrifice and redemption, which takes us to number 4. In esoteric astrology, Pisces represents Christ, Jesus Christ, the path of Jesus Christ, the path of the principles of Christ. Christ is about the willingness to suffer for the collective healing. Christ is about the willingness to absorb the pain from the world to show the world another way, to show the world the path of love. In this willingness to suffer, Christ dissolves his ego. This is the story of Jesus Christ, dissolves his ego into this path of service. So in other words, he chooses to sacrifice his life, not because he's a martyr, like, woe is me, life is so hard on me, I'm so hunted, and I'm treated so poorly, and humans are so terrible. Not in this way, but really in a way to teach us about our connection. So the service of Pisces, the sacrifice that they offer, is really to model what love looks like. And love sometimes looks like sacrifice. Love sometimes also looks like redemption. And this is the message of Pisces that Virgo is still struggling with, meaning that there are going to be times when you do the wrong thing because you're human. And all of us are humans, and we all do the wrong thing. So when you recognize that you've done the wrong thing, you want to put effort towards redeeming yourself. This is where the spiritual impact comes in. It's not enough to pretend that you didn't do it, and it's not enough to minimize the impact of the harm that you caused. You actually want to own the fact that you did it, and then choose what you're going to do to make it better. That is what Christ did by showing us, this is what I'm going to do to show you guys what love looks like. I know Christianity was born out of the story of sacrifice of Christ, and there's so many different interpretations of that now. But at its core, Christ was a lover of all, especially of the most vulnerable among us. And that energy is Piscean energy. Lastly, the spiritual lesson of Pisces is around transcendence. Pisces separates the veil between physical matter and the spirit realm. Pisces cuts through the veil between our physical life and our spiritual life, our physical life and our spiritual death. It also cuts the veil between me and you, because Pisces represents all of us, our collective consciousness. So this duality of Pisces that you can see transcends physical, spiritual, transcends birth, death, and transcends self versus other. The spiritual impact here is about moving beyond this kind of black and white way of thinking into the mystical realization that all of us are one and everything that is happening is supposed to happen. This is why, in spite of everything that's happening politically, I can't align myself with people who are celebrating, people possibly dying as a result of this, because I trust that everything that happens is supposed to happen, because I trust life, I trust the universe, I trust destiny, I trust God, whatever you want to call it, source, I trust it. I trust that everything that happens is supposed to happen because all of us are one. So picture me feeling gleeful that somebody might die. What kind of energy am I sending out in the universe with that? It's not good energy. I don't want that energy. And yes, I do see content that does that sometimes, and sometimes it's funny, but it doesn't mean that I actually have these feelings. I love the creative ways that people are expressing themselves and working through their grief. This is why I'm always going to be somebody that makes room for people to feel their feelings, regardless of how I feel about it. But ultimately, because I understand that all of us are one, I get that what energy I dish out is the energy that I get, because I am you and you are me. Aries births life. Pisces dissolves life into death, back to God. The cycle of life and death is the Zodiac wheel. All of us are new souls born at Aries, and we all die and transcend this reality at Pisces. This is why Pisces is the keeper of karma. This is why Pisces is the deliverer of endings. This is why Pisces is the memory of karma. This is why Pisces represents transcendence, because Pisces takes you from the physical realm to the spiritual realm. Without Pisces, there would be no return to God. There would be no return to wholeness. There would be no return to feeling one with all. Pisces is here to remind us that we're not separate bodies, but we're manifestations of divinity in different forms. I am a part of life just as much as that tree is a part of life. I may not speak that tree's language, but that tree has its own language. And because I have the ability to cut that tree down, does not mean that my life is more valuable than that tree's life. All the sentient beings on earth are all part of our collective consciousness. Pisces opens the portal for us to be able to experience spirituality, art, music, dreams, meditation, psychedelics, every transcendent experience that you can imagine is coded in Pisces energy. This is why Pisces at its lower vibration makes us confront our issues with addiction, our issues with escapism, our issues with being a compulsive victimhood, our issues with being a martyr, our issues with lying to ourselves and other people, our issues with not being able to handle the truth and not being able to handle reality and feeling the need to sugarcoat everything so that we can feel better about the fantasy world that we created. Pisces pushes us to develop a relationship with truth that is sobering, a relationship with faith that is grounding, a relationship with compassion that is humbling, and a surrender to divinity, a surrender to fate that transcends fear and this idea that we're separated people, because truly we are all one organism together. The Pisces spiritual impact is about remembering that you're not just a fragment of the whole, but you are a drop of divinity. You are a drop in this divine ocean of this collective consciousness that we're all experiencing. Your suffering, your joy, your love, your work, all of those are ripple effects across the collective. So when you heal yourself, you heal the world. This full moon is here to awaken your soul. It's going to awaken your soul to empathy, to creativity, and to spirituality and mysticism. It's about dissolving this idea of separation and integrating into our spiritual system this idea of unity. Compassion is a lifestyle. It's not just something we do to look good or to feel good. It's something we do because we know when we give others good energy, we're giving ourselves good energy. When we treat others well, we are treating ourselves well. And lo and behold, the happiest people also give joy to other people. So the shadow side of Pisces that they're often unaware of is this compulsive desire that they have to run away from everything and to escape everything, even the bad stuff that they do. And oftentimes they will use confusion. One of their favorite tools is confusion, pretending not to know the facts from reality as a way to avoid accountability. Another way that they go about avoiding accountability is play a passive role in their life. So Pisces, as an example, will let others take advantage of them, and then they will blame that person for what they did, even though they allowed it. So this full moon is basically coming to show us this conflict, that we may have with ourselves about who we really are and who we think we are. Okay? You may feel this pull between needing clarity around like your actual spiritual essence. What is it made out of? Are you actually surrendering to the truth of life, which is that life is uncertain? So there's going to be some tension here around intuitively knowing the truth and trying to think our way through the truth. The Virgo mind wants precision, but the Pisces heart knows that the truth is sometimes not precise. It's sometimes all-inclusive. It's sometimes dualistic, and it's sometimes all-encompassing. Virgo wants to pull out the truth as this one singular thing that explains everything. And what Pisces knows is that wisdom is a lot more complex than just one thing. So having Virgo at the sun and Virgo at the Mercury, as well as the midheaven, is going to bring this focus to our identity, our public image. It's going to remind us that everything can't always fit into a box. The mind doesn't always get its way because sometimes the truth is more profound than what the mind can handle. Sometimes the truth that needs to be spoken makes us feel too sensitive. And sometimes the insights that we get, we're not always able to neatly put them into beautiful words so they can come out just right. Virgo, also being at the midheaven, is bringing attention to our career, our professional goals. What areas of our lives do we feel misunderstood? As you know, a lot of this theme is around communication, which is Mercury energy. So specifically about our career, our public standing, our public reputation, where have we been feeling emotionally distant, misunderstood by the group, the people that we work with? Having this moon fall in the 4th house is really bringing focus to also our emotional life. How is your work affecting you emotionally? How is your family of origin? How is your family trauma? How are your family dynamics amplifying feelings of vulnerability right now? Feelings of nostalgia? Are you able to retreat into yourself to a safe place to process these emotions? Having the Pisces moon conjunct our North Node and our Saturn makes this full moon transit karmic. A lunar eclipse is naturally karmic in astrology, but having this moon at Saturn, the planet of karma, activates our North Node, which makes this transit fated. So anything that you start around this moon or that ends around this moon is fated. There's no avoiding it. You're being pulled towards your growth, even if your growth is uncomfortable. Pisces North Node is asking us to surrender, to soften up, to be more gentle, to be more empathetic, more compassionate, more loving, more kind, more thoughtful. Saturn is serious. Saturn represents boundaries, responsibilities, karma, emotional restraint. That's very big for Saturn. So we might start reminiscing about situations where we did not exercise as much emotional restraint as we would have liked. Because the thing is, Mercury moves really fast. In fact, it is the fastest moving planet. And oftentimes, Gemini and Virgo struggle with this because they rule information. And as you know, information travels fast. Sometimes there can be agents of false information circulating at a fast rate that they later find out is false, simply because they did not have the emotional maturity to sit with the information in a state of contemplation and loneliness so they could really work through the emotions that are coming forth for them with this information that they're receiving. Because oftentimes, when they're sharing this information very fast, they're doing so because they need some emotional support. So this full moon is really calling you back to taking responsibility for your emotions. It's kind of like your karmic checkpoint. This is also your saving grace because it is trine Cancer, Jupiter, and Vertex. So there's emotional expansion happening also. We're getting more spiritual insight that we may not have had before. We're giving ourselves more compassion that we may not have been able to absorb before. This is a very supportive energy, this Cancerian energy, because he brings in very like motherly energies. It makes us want to take care of our hearts. Despite all the tension and opposition in the air, there is room for growth and healing if we're willing to nurture ourselves. A big part of this is asking ourselves, what was missing in us that created room for us to be willing to accept a lie as the truth? And Cancer does really well with this by using humor. My favorite thing about zodiac sign Cancer is their dark humor. They're very good at using humor to highlight the ridiculousness of life. When you give yourself a chance to make mistakes and to fall on your face and to learn your lesson, you're allowed to put that experience in a broader perspective that can bring about both humor, humility, and compassion. So this Jupiter trine moon is going to bring some hope, some protection, with the sense that, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes things happen that we can't fully understand in the moment until much later. And that's okay. We're all here to experience life on our terms. Our journey is moving according to our schedule. We can't fast track it. Everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. Vertex in astrology is exactly about this energy of fated encounters. So Moon trine Vertex points to a meaningful meeting or an emotional event that is destined to happen, that is going to align us with the karmic North Node and the Saturn activation that we're going through right now. So something about this transit is really about getting us back on track. It's a huge turning point. It's really a declaration of reconciliation between our ego and our emotional needs. We're basically navigating our contradictions in self-expression and emotional truths and bringing them together. So this crossroad of Virgo at the head and Pisces at the moon is nudging us towards releasing control, even if it clashes with our need for order and certainty. This transit is no doubt going to feel very heavy, but the spiritual and emotional growth that's coming out of it is going to turn your life around. And the only way out of this is through. We have to soften our self-criticism. Saturn in North Node conjunction means that this is not just like a passing mood. This is a karmic training ground. Something significant is being built inside of us emotionally, and it feels less restrictive than how we were living before. Jupiter and Vertex is bringing in the reassurance that we have cosmic support. We have spiritual support. We have the ability to get spiritual meaning out of the synchronicities of events that are happening. To put it bluntly, you're going to find yourself in a position where you're going to have to face reality and realize that you can't rationalize your way out of the mess that you created. Okay? The Virgo in you is going to want to answer questions and pinpoint everything to a neat clarification so you can categorize everything and put it under a beautiful notepad and put the solution right here. But Pisces is going to make you sit in the confusion, sit in the chaos, sit in the uncomfortable feelings, sit in this idea of learning how to trust yourself again and let go of perfectionism. Your private life and your public standing are both getting a boost right now. Stop trying to fix life like it's a puzzle. Life is a mystery. It's about balance and surrendering. When we root ourselves in compassion, we free ourselves from perfectionism. Nobody's perfect, so nobody can be perfect. So we're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to be kind and compassionate. Both towards ourselves and other people, and growth isn't just a one-time effort. It's a lifestyle of allowing ourselves to make mistakes and learn from our mistakes and bounce back. Learn to let go of control. Root yourself in your spiritual nourishment and your emotional nourishment. Spirituality is not out there. It's not something you go to get. Spirituality is something that you practice. It's something that you nurture. It exists within you already. It's part of your inner world. It's part of your divinity. It's part of your lineage. It is part of your soul's work. Not everything can be solved through logic. Some things have to be felt. Sometimes karma needs to be felt for us to learn that that was the wrong thing to do. And sometimes we just need to trust that everything is going to work out, even when we don't know what's going on. And when we do that, we embrace the mystery of life. The other lesson with this full moon transit is karmic accountability. Okay? We have to learn emotional discipline. Emotional discipline is the ability to sit with the mess that we made without shutting down. That's the simplest way to explain it. Maturity comes from not controlling the narrative, but accepting responsibility for our own emotional truth. If you're finding yourself in the mess right now, it's because you are feeling feelings that you are trying to control. Pisces is bringing you back to those feelings that you are feeling and is encouraging you to unpack it. Because if you can bring comfort to those feelings, then you won't feel the need to come up with lies to control the narrative. Which takes me to my next point. This full moon transit is asking us to open ourselves up to grace. Back to Pisces representing the energy of Jesus Christ. Grace is real. Not everything in life is earned by effort. Sometimes you just get lucky. A lot of life is just that. Getting lucky, getting blessed. Some things are given to you freely when you're soft enough to receive them. Gratitude is what brings in blessings. There is synchronicity in our soul contracts. Life aligns you with the right people at the right moment when you stop trying to control life. When you start vibing with life and trusting it and going with what's coming up and releasing control. When you start trusting the timing of the people in your life, the connections that you're making, you will notice that everything faded will start falling on your lap. Suddenly you're having like random encounters. Suddenly you're having like awakenings that you've never had before. Suddenly this brilliant idea pops in your head that you never thought about before. All of this comes from letting go. When you understand that you are a vessel that God is using to bring more light on earth, you stop trying to play God in your life or other people's lives. Because there's only one highest power. There's not 100, just one. And that one is what connects all of us. And all of us came here with a purpose in mind. And that purpose requires that we integrate our soul and our ego. Spiritual growth comes from integrating the ego and the soul. We cannot do shisty things to other people out of ego and ignore it or pretend like we didn't do it. In the same token, we cannot sacrifice our soul for the sake of others and watch our ego get destroyed and blame other people for that. The ego serves as the container and the soul provides the balance. Balance. must meet structure, must meet flow. It all has to work together. If you lean into this, you will be initiated emotionally into your karmic north node, which is essentially your destiny. And my dear, that is the bigger picture. The bigger picture is not these minute, mundane, ridiculous issues that we bicker about down here on earth. It's about the destiny. What did you come to earth to do? What is your soul contract? What are your core spiritual lessons that you need to learn to align yourself with your destiny so manifestation happens without you even thinking about it? You guys know, I believe that manifestation is merely the alignment of your soul with your destiny. A lot of the rituals that we do is to prime our habits, to be mindful of a force or a source greater than ourselves, but it's not really to control the narrative, because so much of life is through the covenant of grace. So much of life is through healing, is through separating, is through embracing everything that comes our way. And yes, sometimes you can feel loss. Sometimes you can feel out of control. But this is the path that your soul chose, and you cannot run away from it. You will continue to repeat karmic cycles if you refuse to face yourself. And when you do not master control over your soul, you are not able to develop the emotional maturity needed to surrender to your destiny. So, as you know, a full moon is not a time to manifest, and definitely not when we're having a lunar eclipse. You need to be chilling out and resting because your soul is being called back to deep karmic memories. It's about the family imprint. It's about past lives. It's about wounds from your mother. A lot of you may be experiencing a refresher of your mother wound. This is all okay. This moon falling in the fourth house is going to bring family issues to light. The reason why so many of us run away from emotional maturity is because we were raised by emotionally immature parents and we never developed the skills. So we're behaving like our emotionally immature parents because that's all we ever had. And this full moon is saying, hey, you can't be a controlling tyrant and think that you're going to have a happy life. You can't abandon your discernment in favor of your rational mind. You have to bring your gut with your brain together. That's why God gave everybody a brain and a heart. And it's about the union of the heart and the brain. So we're moving from perfectionism into compassion. There are times when we're going to put our ego forth, that when we should have put our soul forth. There are times when we're going to put our soul forth when we should have put our ego forth. We want to work on that balance between sensitivity and logic. We want to work on surrendering control because we're not God and we cannot play God in our lives or other people's lives. We also want to work on our identity. Our identity is much more than our name, our skin color, our story. It's about our soul's calling, our soul's essence, our soul's purpose. And you'll notice when you're making life decisions that do not align with your soul's calling, your intuition will speak to you. And when you don't listen, that's when karma comes. Karma is not necessarily bad. In fact, in astrology, we consider karma a teacher. This is why Capricorn is associated with giving advice and teaching and coaching, because karma is a teacher. A teacher doesn't teach to punish you. They teach to give you information that they want you to apply. Me, myself, as a karmic, I've noticed the only time life has ever punished me for bad decisions is when I did the bad thing with malicious intent. It's not just about the action, it's the intentions. So when our heart is not pure and we don't put pure intentions in our heart, the things that we create with our hands get tinted, and then we can't share pure love. This is why it's very important to check the condition of the heart, because our karma isn't just about our actions. It's about what we were trying to manifest in that person's life. What did we want to see happen in that person's life? What did we want them to feel when we did what we did? And sometimes we do the wrong thing without intending to harm others. Those are lessons. We learn from them. But when we continue to do things without intending to harm others, and others are reflecting back to us that our actions are harmful, and we continue to do those same actions even though they've told us that our actions are harmful, now we're getting into a zone of malicious intent. Because we know it's not good, we know it's hurting, and we're still doing it. This is usually when karma takes a darker kind of significance. In my life, I have never noticed that the universe punished me outright without any warnings of my bad behavior. So what we're supposed to be doing under this full moon in Pisces is giving ourselves the space to really see our shadow side, to really see the ways we lie to ourselves about our malicious intent, to really see the ways we lie to ourselves about how we use our intelligence and how we use our skill set to create deception in our lives and in the lives of others. And the karma that we get from compulsively doing those kinds of things is here to really train us that that's not very loving. And if everybody behaved this way on earth, then this would be a tyrannical place. And we don't want to instill terror in one another. We want to share love. And that is exactly what this transit is about. So let's get started with Aries rising. Aries, for you, this falls in the 12th house. The 12th house is the house of karma. It's time for you to set some intentions about what kind of person you want to be. What kind of energy do you want to share with others on earth? What type of spiritual soul are you trying to manifest through this earth? You know, a lot of the reasons why you might be going through a tough time right now is because you need to learn some lessons about letting go, about doing less, about leaving things as they are, about leaving room for magic, for mystery. You know, a lot of the times when Aries rising is misbehaving is because they're feeling insecure about their life not panning out the way that they want. And sometimes that insecurity can consume them so much that they become jealous of other people that they perceive to be living their life the way they would want to live it. But they don't quite have the emotional connection to recognize that. So instead, they start bullying that person or trying to dominate and compete with that person just to make a point, just to make themselves feel important. Because Aries as a zodiac sign is naturally very competitive. So when they're not feeling competitive according to their standards, usually it takes this kind of negative tone. So Aries rising, is time for you to really meditate. You know, set some intentions in meditation and set some intentions around like the spiritual impact that you want to have on earth. Okay, moving on to Taurus rising. For you, this is about your friend group, the people you associate with, your social connections, your network, you know, how you envision your social connections to look years from now. Again, this transit is fairly karmic. Everything that you start around this time is going to last you a lifetime. Everything that ends around this time cannot be resuscitated, okay? So it's time for you to start thinking about connections and friendships in terms of what values you share with other people. It's not enough to keep friends just because you've known them a long time. You have to have a similar vision. You have to have a similar ideal. You have to have similar ethics. You have to have similar values. In an ideal community, there is synchronicity. There's connection, and that connection happens through opening doors. This doesn't mean everybody has to look the same and everybody has to have a similar life story, but everyone has to be of one accord about the meaning of friendship and the meaning of love, okay? Moving on to Gemini rising, for you, this is going to hit your public standing, your reputation, your career, your work. I want you to imagine your highest spiritual purpose when it comes to what you do for work. And then I want you to imagine what that feels like when you're in that energy, because that kind of energy is what you want to manifest. So in order to manifest it, you have to radiate it. Remember, we manifest what we are, not what we want. So release attachment to outcomes. You don't have to perform to be liked when you like yourself. So tap in within into your highest spiritual purpose in your career, identify what that is and what that feels like, and start demonstrating that out loud. And the more you do that, the more you will spiritually align your ideal career with yourself. Cancer rising, for you, this falls into the 9th house, which is the house of spirituality, higher education, and philosophy. It's time for you to manifest by aligning your belief system with what you actually feel. It's not enough to just believe, you have to practice your belief. So maybe you need tools. Maybe you need like a dream board. Maybe you need visualization techniques. Maybe you need affirmations. Maybe you need to create a schedule around trips because you manifest really well too, Cancer Rising, when you take trips to the water. Maybe you need to create a schedule to go near the ocean routinely so you can think of what you want to do with your life and get some clarity. So write down some intentions that you have in terms of like broadening your spirituality. You're actually a very good manifester once you tap into the energies of what it is that you desire, but it requires that you really believe it. A lot of people talk about Sagittarius being a lucky zodiac sign. They fail to mention that that luck doesn't just come from just luck. It's actually faith. The luck is faith. That's the cheat code. They don't just talk about it. They really believe it. And if you don't live it, if you don't really believe it, you don't get it. Because your manifestations come from your heart. And that's where your belief system is going to be. If it's only in your head, but it's not in your heart, you're not going to be able to manifest. So think of rituals that you can incorporate into your lifestyle that allow you to reinforce your beliefs. Moving on to Leo rising, for you, this is going to come around your marriage, your assets, your shared resources with your spouse, issues with sexuality, issues with spirituality, issues with dealing with taboos. It's time for you to really let go of a lot of fears that are holding you back from transformation. A lot of the karma that you're dealing with right now is about inability to manage your ego. So you might need to write down some manifestations around like clearing out like emotional debt, karmic debt that may not even be related to you, so that you can bring in some new abundance. Since you're a fire sign, you could do a burning exercise with like old debts, old fears, old toxic cycles, old patterns that you no longer want to be a part of. And once you're done, burn it. And since this moon transit is loaded with this mercurial energy, you can blow it in the wind and just release it. Okay. Moving on to Virgo rising, for you, this is about partnership and relationships. It's important for you to be intentional in partnership, and you want your relationships and partnerships to involve two important skills that sometimes Virgo rising struggle with. Number one, compassion, meaning that we can feel for other people without necessarily understanding what they're going through. That's literally what binds us together as people, is that we feel for one another's pain. And number two, reciprocity. It's not until we get to Libra that the zodiac signs understand the importance of reciprocity. So Virgo, it's not a big deal that you haven't mastered that, but this is a very important tool that you need to have successful relationships. They're all about give and take. So I want you to write out what you feel like in a healthy partnership, not just what you're looking for, but what you feel like, okay? And once you have that feeling, I want you to think about behaviors that you think would enhance that feeling. Like as an example, in a healthy partnership, I feel seen, or I feel safe, or I feel cared for, or I feel generous, like those kinds of qualities. And then think about what behaviors elicit that. And if you keep thinking about it, something tells me at the root of it, you're going to find care. You're going to find compassion. You're going to find empathy. You're going to find unity. Unity doesn't mean that you can't stand up for what you know is right and what you believe. It simply means that you have the honesty and the care for the other to be able to bring issues up when there are issues, with the intent of finding a balance, which is really what this is about. It's about balance in your partnership, balance in your marriage, balance in your business contract, and also being willing to see yourself through the eyes of another. That's what relationships are about, really. It's about reflection through another. So a lot of times Virgo rising struggle with criticism, because they're already so hard on themselves. So when they get in partnership, they don't like others to reflect them back to themselves, because they're already reflecting their worst traits back to themselves. And you healing some of that will make you more suited for partnership, because all partnerships require reflection through the other. Okay? Moving on to Libra rising, for you, this falls in the 6th house, which is the house of health, wellness, and daily routine. This is about you finding meaning in the mundane, like cooking, cleaning, exercising. Set some small intentions every day to do something that nourishes your body, nourishes your soul. It's time for you to really work on that work-life balance, Manifestation for you comes through treating your body as if it was sacred, as if it was a temple, as if it was a place of devotion. Libra rising is by nature very superficial, which I love. And I think the more time you spend really loving yourself and taking care of your health, your mind, your body, your spirit, the easier it is for you to bring yourself in spiritual alignment. Moving on to Scorpio rising. For you, this falls in the 5th house. And this is all about joy. This is about fun. This is about pleasure. This is a house ruled by Leo. It's about creativity. It's about humor. It's time for you to express yourself through art, poetry, dance, music. Call in joy. Find creative ways to talk about your feelings. Find creative ways to attract kindred spirits in your life. I want you to focus on doing things that make your heart feel alive. So a lot of times, Scorpio rising in this energy, you can manifest easily through play. If you can learn to let go of control, you can be more spontaneous, more authentic, more raw with your emotional expression. This is something Leo does really well, and Scorpio rising can definitely learn to embody some of those qualities so it's not all negative all the time, okay? Sagittarius rising, for you, this falls in the 4th house. This is the house of the mother, the house of our ancestors, our roots. You could benefit from actually having an altar in your home where you get to remember your ancestors, okay? Pisces full moon is all about candle work. Cleanse your space, light a candle, light some incense. Take some time to set some intentions around belonging to yourself. A lot of times Sagittarius, when they're underdeveloped, they think out there is where the truth is. And when a Sagittarius gets older, they realize the truth is within. So it's by sanctifying your inner and outer home that you bring yourself into alignment. It's not from running away from your family or your family problems. So find a way to bring integration between the woundedness of your family history and the healing that you're bringing forth. Because remember, when you heal the world. Capricorn rising, for you, this falls in the 3rd house. This is about your intelligence, your communication style, your siblings, your community, your neighborhood. This is also about learning and sharing information. It might be a good idea for you to write some intentions by hand or speak some intentions out loud. Language is how Gemini and Virgo manifest really well. For you, this is really about learning how to say what's on your mind. Capricorn rising, they really struggle with emotional vulnerability. So when they have things to say, they're not very clear. They're not very direct. They can often be very passive aggressive. And it's time for you to speak your truth. Okay? Speak your truth by owning your voice. And sometimes affirmations are a good way to do that. If you get in the habit of doing daily affirmations, you can open up your throat chakra and get some more emotional confidence to speak your truth. Because oftentimes when you repress your true emotions for so long, when it's time for you to speak it comes out very aggressive, which I know is never the intent, but that's the impact nonetheless. So if you're working on becoming a more loving person, which Capricorn, you should be aiming for that because you are a karmic and you're a soulful person, then you need to connect with your emotions. Find ways to connect your emotions, your heart chakra, to your throat chakra, okay? Aquarius rising, for you, this falls in the 2nd house. It's about your self-esteem. It's about your finances, your material resources. It's time for you to rewrite the rules around what wealth looks like. Resources and abundance isn't just material. So the more you focus on embracing all the things that you're wealthy for, that you take for granted, the more you give gratitude for all of the wealth you currently already have, the more you will be able to manifest more wealth in your life. Again, worthiness does not come from money. Worthiness does not come from work. Worthiness simply is. And when we spend more time loving ourselves and affirming ourselves, the universe loves us back. Okay? Lastly, Pisces rising, this falls for you in the 1st house. It's about your ego, your identity, your self-expression. You want to embody your highest self, and your highest self is somebody who can face their shadows and their light at the same time. It's not someone who is a liar or who's running away from themselves or who wants to be thought of as perfect, but it's somebody whose self-image and presence is authentic, somebody who honors their body, somebody who is at peace with themselves as they anoint themselves every day in colors that feel mystical, in truth that feels healing, and in compassion that they can extend not just to themselves and to others as well. For this full moon in Pisces, I would encourage you to surrender. Writing and burning what you release is a great way to do that. Writing a future letter to yourself is a great way to do that. Journaling about your ideal self or your ideal vision. It's really about faith. You know, we're having Sagittarius at the rising. You're being asked to believe in what isn't physically here yet, because the more you believe in what you cannot see, the more the unseen becomes seen. Okay? Pisces is a mystic. Pisces is psychic. Pisces is a dream weaver. Believing without proof and trusting the timing of your life allows you to release control. And the more you release control, the easier it is to manifest, because manifestation is energy work. It's not work in the physical realm. It's aligning your vibe with that which you desire. And if you're already living intentionally as if that which you desire is already here, guess what? It comes to you naturally through a fated encounter. So that's all that I have for you today. Thanks so much for listening to the Aquarius podcast. I look forward to connecting with you the next time we have a moon transit on September 21st, which is going to be the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. So this whole September month is this axis of Virgo and Pisces. I wish you a happy full moon. May you have the courage, or may you find it, to let go of what no longer serves you so you can make room for all of the blessings that are coming ahead.
What's your rising sign and how is this eclipse hitting you? Let's see which zodiac signs show up the strongest.
You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.